yet. Just outside of town, there was a small, ordinary field. The soil was dry, the dirt stubborn, and weeds clung to the ground like they refused to let go. But to 73-year-old Henry Walker, that field meant something. Every single morning, you'd find him there. Slow steps, worn boots, and calloused hands ready to work. This summer, his 17-year-old grandson, Ethan, was with him. Ethan was the picture of youthful, athletic, and full of restless energy. On paper, he should have been faster, stronger, and far more productive than his grandfather. But he wasn't. At first, they worked in silence. Henry drove his fork into the soil with a steady rhythm. Lift, turn, step forward, again and again. His breathing was heavy, and sweat rolled down his weathered face, but his expression remained calm, focused. Ethan, on the other hand, was a mess. He struggled from the very beginning. Every hard patch of dirt felt like a personal insult. He'd curse under his breath, stop to stretch his back, stop to complain about the heat. He kept staring across the vast expanse of the field, measuring how much work was left, and every glance just made him more frustrated. "This is crazy," Ethan finally snapped, dropping his fork with a clatter. "This field is massive. We'll be here forever." Henry didn't even look up. He just kept working, turning another forkful of soil, then another. After nearly an hour, Ethan noticed something that didn't make any sense. His grandfather, older, slower, and clearly exhausted, had cleared a section of land almost twice as large as his own. Ethan frowned, completely baffled. "How is that even possible?" he asked, his voice laced with disbelief. "You're older than me. You're tired. How did you do so much more?" Henry finally leaned on his fork, taking a moment to catch his breath. "Because I'm not fighting the work," he said simply. Ethan blinked. "What does that even mean?" Henry nodded toward Ethan's small, messy patch of cleared ground. "Every time you lift that fork, you stop," he explained. "You complain. You think about how hard this is. You think about how much is left to do." Then he pointed to his own steady progress. "I don't do any of that." Ethan shook his head, still confused. "So what? It doesn't hurt your back. You're not tired." A small smile touched Henry's lips. "Oh, it hurts," he admitted. He paused, letting the words sink in. "But pain isn't what slows people down." He straightened his back, looking his grandson in the eye. "Thinking about how hard something is, that's the real work. That's what makes people tired. That's where most people quit." Ethan stood quietly, the empty field stretching out before him. "When you stop and argue with yourself," Henry continued, "you waste energy before the work even begins. While you're standing still in your head, arguing with the task. I've already taken 3 more steps." They went back to work. But this time, something was different. Ethan didn't look at the far end of the field. He didn't count the hours until they could stop. He just focused on one single movement. Lift, turn, step forward. Minutes passed, then more, and a strange thing happened. He wasn't as tired. The frustration was gone. When they finally stopped for the day, Ethan looked back at the ground he'd cleared. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Real, tangible progress. "I do this with everything," Ethan said, quietly, almost to himself. "School, my goals, life." Henry nodded knowingly. "Most people do. So how do you stop?" Ethan asked, a genuine curiosity in his voice. "How do you stop the thoughts?" "You don't stop the thoughts," Henry replied, his voice gentle but firm. "You just don't obey them." As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the field, it looked different. It wasn't finished, not by a long shot, but it was started. Henry wiped the dirt from his hands and said one last thing. "Big things aren't done all at once. They're done by people who keep moving when their mind tells them not to." Ethan looked out at the field, and for the first time, it didn't feel overwhelming. It just felt like a place to start. The moral of this story is simple but profound. Most of the things we avoid in life aren't hard because of the work itself. They're hard because of all the thinking we do around them. Procrastination, distraction, and complaining drain more of our energy than action ever will. Progress doesn't require motivation or perfection or even comfort. It only requires movement. Even one small step forward, repeated over and over, can change absolutely everything.
If this story touched you, subscribe to Moral Storyland Official. More meaningful stories are coming.